Sir, should we proceed with Dr. Alexandre?
Okay. So good early morning.
Yeah, I'll just request you, sir. Dr. Alexandre, he's a professor from New York, associated with Academy Socrates, New York, USA. He's associated IARHIES for the past 3 years, and he's been giving his valuable contributions through his papers in our several events. Today, he's going to address us on the topic enlightenment of the population in the field of international social psychosis in history as a means of neutralizing severe psychological sabotage. Sir, request you to kindly take over, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, afternoon, late evening, whoever has anything. A real pleasure to see you. So my best regards and thanks for the invitation. It is a real part of my life, participation in these conferences of yours. And definitely I was missing that. That was a tough time for any explorer, because we explorers, we need to share our views to check the validity and adequacy of the conclusions that we come to finally with this moment. How it all started, the topic of social psychosis. It started this April, somewhere the first week of April, when the sun was shining, birds were singing, it was already green, and a lot of fresh air, no viruses in the park. That was Riverside Park, close to downtown, actually downtown New York. I had an hour and I just was walking, thinking and enjoying sun and weather. It was already April, after a month of a kind of a detention that we had, moral detention, psychological detention. So that was a really nice day. What puzzled me at first and then shocked, that was that in the park, when everything was exposed to sunshine and to very warm weather, people were still walking, jogging in masks. Even pairs, I mean wife and husband, or just, pairs, who definitely share their bed, their apartment, their car, even they were in those masks. And no special masks, just the simple medical masks. That puzzled me, and I did not understand the course of this, I would say, weird behavior of people. Well, I am not of a high expectations as far as American education. It is abroad, probably maybe in your country. They say that that is the best education in the world, which is not. I heard that in Czech Republic at university, international university, when they say education is the best in the world. It is good to be between two oceans and to think that you are the smart or the smartest. But the problem, what I found out was when I was approaching the people and saying, why are you jogging? Also, why are you jogging in masks? There is no virus here. And the mask you wear, it does not protect you from viruses, because viruses are hundreds, thousands times smaller than the structure of the mask you wear. Listen, I am talking about that. I'm approaching people. Maybe some of them are already sick and tired of me. And there is no positive reaction. There was no one who took mask out, even at the seaside, on the shore of the ocean. we had a situation when police was just chasing the people on the shore because they did not wear masks. But that is the life. This is the funny part of the story. But that was for the first time the situation triggered a scientific suspicion that something was wrong, not in my mind, but in human public consciousness. The first thing, the majority of American people do not have any idea about the size of the virus and the size of the structure of the material or the substance the medical mask is made of. The second one, if they hear or if they knew, their critical mentality is blocked to that kind of extent that they practically have no opportunity not only to hear, maybe they hear, but to listen and to apprehend what is told to them. In other words, all this campaign just frightened the people in mass, throughout the whole country. And that was about half of a year ago. I was interviewed by one of the European correspondents, and she asked me what was the reason of such a publicity, of such a propaganda campaign, as far as the to what extent this virus is dead. Number one, we all remember that the World Health Organization exaggerated the contamination of virus 14 times. And the model that they provided, I don't know whether those undereducated dropouts or crazy people who created that model of, and then to get the plateau, it never reached that, but that was the worst. What the USA and especially New York state governor was led by, that was the extreme model of raise of contamination, sickness. They expect that more than half of New York population would be contaminated. And then finally, in 3 months, at the beginning of June, we started hearing, when even journalists started to understand that something was wrong, they started asking questions and started thinking. And then we found out that practically contamination of contamination degree, coefficient of contamination of coronavirus 19 is only 0.3 points more than the contamination power of any regular fall spring virus. Actually, each spring and fall, more American people in big cities die of these seasonal flus, seasonal viruses, than of coronavirus 19. You know better than me, the origin of it is very strange. And the first scientist, I said, there is a person from Czech Republic, right? Nikola Slavkovich, yeah? She's from Czech Republic.
From Belgrade, sir, Belgrade, Serbia.
Ah, from Serbia, well, close. And that was the European virologist who for the first time stated that the virus was artificially created, because in its genetic structure, it has components of sexual transmitted disease and of regular viruses, which was very tricky, usually, sometimes does, but usually nature does not work this way. In order to make it short, there were a lot of facts which made me suspicious. And when half of a year ago, I was asked, well, what was the reason? I could not answer. I said, I do not have enough factual basis to make a comment on that. So no comment. Let's talk about it later. Today, it is for the third day when I'm saying that officially everything is clear for me. And the major thing is that, unfortunately, the power managers, and because of what's going on in our country, we cannot even, as we cannot imagine endlessness of our, I get crazy of our world, yeah? Because math has the beginning and has the end. Our consciousness has the birth, the development, and we have just the end of our life. We cannot imagine that. And it is also unimaginable for some people to think that there could be mass propaganda campaigns on the scale of a planet. I'm saying right now that the major reason definitely is in the fact that the imperial system of capitalism is degrading. The crisis, which is worse than that which was in 1929, and America was very close to socialism, not of the Soviet Union type or like Eastern or Central European countries, which I call quasi-socialism, but of a different one. We started having hundreds of churches of socialism. People started praying a socialist God, for better or worse. So the country once already was on the brink of a social revolution, not political one, but a social revolution and political one. And they managed to neutralize it, but they were very close. And the major concern of 1% of American population who are extra rich, their only concern is to maintain their superiority and their exquisite role, not only in this country, but all over the world. So the main reason, definitely from my point of view, is economic crisis. They don't want in people's mind the idea of private property, capitalism to be discredited to the level it is discredited. So they try just somehow to lead people away from this thought. And number two, now it is absolutely clear. You know what mess is going on in our country? To the extent that Mr. President, what is yesterday and what is today? Yes, yesterday, I'm sorry. Yesterday said that, number one, Mr. Biden, it is everything connected, and it is with the education of population. Mr. Biden is not a president-elect. His official status right now is he is under criminal investigation. And number two, he is prospective president-elect, because it will be on November 6th that the votes would be confirmed of those who voted for him, who elected him. And only in January the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, the 12th, the Congress will confirm that the president was elected. There was a very hard day for the family of current president. The family even went different ways. His son-in-law said he had to stop the campaign. His sons were saying, no, you need to go forward. His lawyers also were saying, go ahead. And finally, we came to the point when Mr. President went out to the lawn of the White House and said, listen, I'm not, do you remember Biden said 6 months ago that if Mr. President does not leave the White House, military would escort him. Mr. President yesterday said that he would not leave the White House, that he will become a president interim. You can call it whatever you want, a political revolution, a judicial phenomena. It could be considered from different points and appreciated. But what it is all about, the major reason to spread this kind of social hysteria in American society, which is very easy to do it in this country, especially in rural areas. Excuse me, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but from my point of view, over-religiosity, in the sense that you live in a world which comes later, but you live today, this is not a healthy indicator. And in American routine, middle America, it is a very typical thing I'm watching. It is very typical that people, they have a very simple routine, churches on Saturday or Sunday, and that's it. It is very easy to make them think this way or that way, because that is how they're programmed from the very beginning, from the kindergarten, from school, primary school, from high school, university, etc. I started to explore what is going on in the history of mankind. And I started with the 9th century, our time, 10th century, our time, because that was when Europe was formed. And and this is a 3-part research, which is the lower Middle Ages, the Middle Ages, medium Middle Ages, and high Middle Ages. Then I go to New Time and the Newest Time. So this is a 1-year exploration. What I have noticed that it is already in ancient times, the propaganda instruments were used to induce psychological hysteria for political, religious purposes. The main accent in the 9th and 10th century were made on religious beliefs of the people. It was very easy to control people just because of their beliefs in all these spirits, you understand. So that was the major component. That was the feature of the 9th and 10th generation, then centuries. And then it started going in a little bit different way. The component of religion, it was still strong, but it was already not the main, because political circles, what I call groups of special interests, they already were in so-called Europe. There was no Europe, yeah, in the 9th and the 10th century. They already existed, and they led people in a certain direction. I found out certain mechanisms which trigger social hysteria. Actually, I had to start with that methodological, that was not right. Social hysteria is the picture of the world in human consciousness, which does not really exist, and which affects their thoughts, their ideas, and their social behavior, exploited by outside political religious players. And that was the main thing. And I found out that there are special mechanisms to induce short-term, middle-term, and long-term social hysteria. with a short term. And by the way, there are two triggers of them. I'm closing. One trigger is lack of understanding what is going on. For instance, somebody, excuse me, I don't want to use that to spell, but it is like, oh, God damn it, yeah? And then the flash of the light is in the skies and they say, well, don't do that. You provoke that. And that is what people really believed in. Later on, people were told this and those stories on politics, and they started to believe in things which really did not exist and which really do not exist by now. As far as the present time, we can say that the whole psychopandemia, which I call it, is a very typical form of social hysteria. I call it social psychosis. And it is induced by outside political propaganda players who affect the public consciousness to reach certain ideological, psychological, and ideological goals. And one more point, that is the new one, that this short, middle, and long-term psychosis, especially when it is a long one, it goes from the level of hysteria into the human mind, penetrates its upper part, which is intellectual part, and remains and stabilizes itself as an algorithm of thinking and perceiving the world. My major point is that we scientists, and I see my goal in that, need to do all the best, and I offer certain mechanisms to educate people just from the, so to say, from the kindergarten, them to recognize these mechanisms of manipulating with their consciousness, them to be able to answer the question, what it is, why it is, and who is interested in that. And then we'll have less and less dependable population of this or that country on political speculations, on manipulations, and that could save millions of lives. Because when people are misled, we had 15,000 wars within observable, registered human history. And a lot of people went to wars believing that that was the right thing, etc., etc., etc. So this is the basic basic thing of what I'm doing. I am already, and I tried that already with the students, just to give them habits and customs to recognize, we recognize women, men, dogs, cats, so to recognize these manipulations. Thank you for your time, and I'm ready to accept your questions.
Thank you so much, sir. I am again request the audience, in case you all have any questions. Yes, I think Sonu ma'am has to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's just one small query from my side. You talked about the education right from the kindergarten, you know, to develop some sort of faculty in children. Do you think that any education that is neutral from any ideology is possible? Any neutral ground is possible, free from any ideology?
I don't think that we need to poison small children's brains with a non-trust of what they are told. That is too early. But when we go to the primary school, like in America, the third the 4th grade, definitely the 5th one, when they actually start life of adults in the USA. It is time to do. The problem is the population, the level of education we have in America. I cannot talk about Russia, Belarus, Ukraine. I can talk about former Czechoslovakia. That is a social order. We get what they wanted. So it is to be done in the right time and in the portions not to poison people and not to make them the ones who do not accept the world as a beautiful sometimes thing, because it is only lies, lies, and lies. This is my answer. And by the way, I'm starting a course, a webinar course for people, students in different languages, just with the outcomes of my, it is the second part of my exploration. There will be the 3rd one and the 4th one, but it is absolutely clear what is going on, and I'm ready to display and uncover these propaganda lies.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I see Serbian colleague already here. Pleasure to see you. I was just talking, because of your last name, I suspected you might be from Czech Republic. It's typical Slavic last name, but this thing is that I was talking about the issues which were the same along the whole system of so-called quasi-socialism in Central, Southern, and Eastern Europe. Pleasure to see you.
Professor Alexandre, when you showed your book, at that time, a lot of us were not present over here. If you can do that once again.
You know, I even tried to do a better thing, because it is something like 1995. Yes, I'll give a call to the institute. Do you see it? Because
Yes.
is it okay? Yeah. And the author is Mr. Jeffrey Tucker, and it is American Institute for Economic Research, and it is so-called Austrian School of Economics. What I'll try to do, I'll give a call to them tomorrow, and I'll ask how many books they could, so to say, give out for members of our conference, and then I'll need your addresses, and they will be mailed to your addresses if I'm, so don't do anything, don't order them right now. I'll try to get them for you for free.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
But it is exquisite. One thing, and I'm keeping mum. Europe, 1918. Europe, 1919. Spanish flu. 15 or 16 millions of people died. No crazy guy had political, economic, or any other reasons to shut down the economy. By the way, the same thing during the civil war for independence in America. There was a disease, skin disease, which was deathful. Soldiers were prohibited to get vaccination. Vaccination was already known. Soldiers were prohibited from vaccination. What they did, they opened the dead bodies and they just contaminated themselves with these particles of disease just to get to. And it came to the point when General Washington finally made it mandatory. But they did not stop fighting. They did not stop economy, and they did not falsify the elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think